all table saws come equipped with an insert plate, also called a throat plate, like this one, that allow you access to your blade when you need to change it. And for most of the cuts that you make on a table saw, this works out fine. But occasionally you need to cut a thin strip of wood or even a small piece that can fall down into that gap. And the reason why that gap is so wide is just to allow you to tilt your blade for making beveled cuts. So that kind of an insert plate is really a compromise. But when you are cutting something that can drop down into that gap, you need to make a special insert plate like this one. It's called a zero clearance insert plate, where that slot is the exact same width as the blade. Some people claim they actually get better cuts using a zero clearance insert plate, that they get less tear out. In my experience, mostly tear out is caused by a dull blade. And if you're gonna be using a stack of Dado blades, this gap might not be big enough, so you need to make a insert plate especially for Dado stacks. A lot of times you could buy a Dado insert plate or even a zero clearance insert plate that are made specifically for your saw. But usually it's simple just to make your own and save some money too. The insert plates for most of the, I guess, more professional model table saws are a 1/2 inch thick, which makes it really simple to make those using just 1/2 inch plywood or 1/2 inch MDF. Unfortunately, if you have an older saw like mine, or even some of the more low-end saws, your insert plate might be real thin like this one, which kind of poses its own set of challenges. So I'm going to show you the method that I use to make insert plates on this kind of a saw. For my saw, the thickness of that plate needs to be 1/4 inch, and I could use plywood, but my experience with 1/4 inch plywood is it tends to kind of bend and warp a little bit. So I find I have better luck using hardboard. It's also called masonite. The first thing I want to do is use my table saw to cut out the width of this plate. See if I can get it pretty close just by setting that plate there and bringing my rip fence over. Yeah, looks like a pretty good fit. While I've got this set up, I might as well cut out a few more. Then all I need to do is line this up and trace out the curved ends. When I cut this out with my jigsaw, I want to leave a little bit of the line showing so that I can fine-tune the fit. I'll use my sander to get this to fit just right. All right, now that I've got a pretty good fit there, I want to reinforce this center section. I'll make that reinforcement out of another strip of hardboard. I just need it to fit in between these tabs. So I'll cut it right around in there. I don't really need to clamp this down. I think I'll just put some weight on it. Cutting the slot in this plate is simple if your table saw blade drops down far enough below the tabletop that you can actually drop this entire plate into place. But as you can see on my saw and other saws, it just doesn't drop down far enough, so I have to come up with a different plan. My saw has these leveling screws in these tabs, and so what I can do is raise these up. I'm raising these to just below the surface of the table, just far enough so that I can drop this in this way, and it still grabs a hold, but it's raised up. If you don't have screws like that, you could, I guess, set something in there, maybe tape a little piece of wood or even a couple of pieces of cardboard, just something to raise this up, but not so far that the plate won't fit in there. So you just need it to grab just a little bit like that. Now I can move my rip fence over to where it can grab that plate and hold it down. And I'm gonna use a 2x4 to just hold the other side in place just to keep it stable. Now I can turn on the saw and start raising the blade. Now I can flip this around and do the cut on the other side. I might be able to lower these a bit. Usually when I see people make these, and the way I've made them before is just stop right there, but I really think I'd feel more comfortable if there were space in it for my riving knife. So I'm gonna see if I can get that to fit. First I'll drop it in and then see how it works. So it looks like I can only raise it up about that far before the back side of that riving knife starts pushing this up. So what I can do is flip this around this way and continue this cut. I'll see how far I can raise that blade up. I'll have to remove that riving knife again. So that lets me raise my blade up using the riving knife that far, which is enough to cut through a 2x4 if I need it. So that should be just fine. The only other thing I want to do is put a hole down here so that I can remove this easily. I can raise these set screws up just a little bit to make the plate level with the table. Feels about right. So here's a couple of cuts that you could do only with the zero clearance plate. Some people just like to leave their zero clearance insert plates in their saw all the time. The only thing to remember is that if you need to make a bevel cut, you'll want to switch over to your standard one that came with the saw, or you could make individual zero clearance insert plates for various bevels. Probably a 45-degree bevel would be the most common one you would make. In order to do that, I won't be able to flip this around, so I have to use one first without the support strip on the back. So hopefully I can get this to just kind of stay in place. You can drop these down and complete the cut. So the only problem with this beveled one is that I won't be able to get my riving knife in there. I can't flip this around, otherwise that bevel would be going the wrong way. But really that's okay, because I'm gonna be using this so rarely. It's only gonna be used for very small pieces that I would be cutting 45-degree bevels on that might likely fall into the slot on my regular insert plate. I'll keep it around, never know when I might need it. If you have a stack of Dado blades, you're definitely going to need to make an insert plate, especially for those. These are gonna be a lot easier though, because the blades are so much smaller. I don't have to do that flippy floppy thing. I can just drop this all the way down and then drop one of those blank insert plates into place. I don't think I need to drill the hole on this one because I can reach right in here to remove the plate.